this question was given to me, and it was labeled as a Bob Anderson continuation trade. So my guess is you can probably do a Google search on Bob Anderson and find this trade out there somewhere on the internet, I guess. But the way the system works here, or the way that, the way the question was asked. All right, I wish we didn't have this blue thing in the way, but what you're looking for are these swing highs, which are kind of hard to see behind this blue area here, but there you go. You can see, yeah, I think those are kind of greenish blue swing highs on that gray background. And you're looking for a swing break, right? Or you're looking for, price to break the swing high or break the swing low. And then let's zoom in here a little bit. Actually, a lot. There. So we can see the swing high plotting along there. And then a bar, right, the wick here breaks that swing high. And then it actually closes as a down bar. So the bar that breaks the swing high also becomes a pullback bar, right? So and these pullbacks have a very specific requirement. They have to be, quote, smooth, and we'll explain what this smooth pullback means here. And then so price has to pull back to the gold line here, right? So you see that gold line? And our price has to pull back to that gold line here. And when price pulls back and touches that gold line, that is then initiates the trade setup there. So that's the trade trigger. And the entry to get into the trade requires a stop order, right? So a stop order, actually this here technically is a file. Okay, actually I don't think I got clarification on this one technical point here. So, okay, so apparently, yeah, according to this screenshot here, the bar actually has to close below the gold line. So we can see the bar that broke the swing high also touched the gold line, but apparently, yeah, we need the bar to close below it. And so that's the signal. That is the signal bar. And then a stop entry to go long, a buy stop, is placed above the body high, right? So that's important, the body high. So, well, actually, I guess, yeah, that would be the open price high. So if it's a long trade, it would be the open price high, because obviously we would need a bar to close down in order to close below the golden line there. So let's see here. Let's look at some of these others here. All right, yeah, so we have a swing high, and the swing high was broken by an up bar, but as we can kind of see here, price kept on going up, and there were some down bars, mixed in with some up bars. So there was no, quote, smooth pullback here. Still, I haven't defined a smooth pullback yet, but we will. We'll get there. All right, yeah. So here's another example. So we have our swing high here. We have an up bar that breaks it, another up bar that goes higher, and then we get a down bar, and this down bar goes higher. And so once we start getting down bars, that's when we need to have this smooth pullback. And this still really isn't a great example to explain a smooth pullback. Let's see here. Yeah, one of these other images has a good has a good example of what a smooth pullback is. So we'll get to that point here. First, let's get to these moving averages, all right? So the gold line is a 9 EMA on a 1 minute chart, right? And the red line, so here there's a bunch of mixing and matching, so I'm just going to build the base, I guess what I would call the standard iteration of this system. But you can see here that sometimes, 1 minute EMAs are mixed in with 1 minute SMAs. So the red line is an SMA, right? It's a 21 SMA, the red line. Again, the gold line is a 9 EMA, right? So the standard setup is the red line is a 21 SMA on the 5 minute time frame, right? So this system works on a 1 minute chart and on a 5 minute chart. All right. And, as traders like to do, they're going to discretionarily mix and match things together. So we can see we have a 1 minute SMA, and a 1 minute based EMA. And we also have a 5 minute based gold line and a 5 minute based red line, 5 minute based EMA, 5 minute based SMA. Right. So I'm just going to build the basic premise of this. And then it's just a matter of, copying and pasting and making the different iterations of this system, using whatever time frame you want for the EMA and the SMA and mixing and matching. So the one thing that seems to be consistent is that the swing indicator is always on a 1 minute chart, right? So the breaking of the swing indicator is always going to be on a 1 minute chart, and the smooth pullback is always going to be on a 1 minute chart. So, okay, let's take a look at some of these other screenshots here. So here is a good example of a smooth pullback. Yeah. However, it does have an up bar in it. But in any case, the smooth pullback here, right? So we can see we have a green bar that breaks the swing high right there. And the smooth pullback is when the highs of the bar step down, right? So the highs of the bars have to be continuously stepping down, all right? So if one of these pullback bars generates a higher high than the previous bar, then that violates the smooth pullback there. All right, so yeah, so the smooth pullback, very simple kind of standard definition there. So, all right. And just it looks like Julius is writing some comments there for me. So, okay, yeah, let me take a look at these. So, okay, so Julius is clarifying on an earlier screenshot that the bar close doesn't have to close below. All right, yeah, so this example is actually incorrect then. Let's zoom in here. Yeah, so the bar that breaks is also the bar that touches the gold line and then would initiate the signal. Yeah, and so then the stop order would be placed above the body high there. Yeah, so that's actually technically incorrect. Again, there's a lot of discretion within this system here. And, to convert this into BloodHound, we're going to strip away all this discretionary stuff and just go with a hardcore, set of rules there. That's what happens when you convert something into a signal. Is you have to, when you convert something into an indicator, you're stripping away all this discretionary stuff here, and you're hard coding everything. Now, of course, with BloodHound, you can make various iterations of your signal to, and that allows you to introduce some variations, kind of like what we did with the last question, how we had a variation of that double top, double bottom, but it took two separate sets of rules and we just kind of combined them together with an OR node here. So, all right. Okay, let's take a look at this third screenshot that I have here. Let's see here. Oh, perfect. Yeah, look at this guy. So here's a great example, a good classic example of a smooth pullback, right? So this long green bar broke this swing low down here, right? And then we started getting a down bar. And so the down bar initiates the smooth pullback, right? So this is, yeah, so we haven't finished defining the break versus the smooth pullback yet, right? So yeah, so here's again a good example of a smooth pullback, right? You can see the highs of all of these down bars are stepping down smoothly. Let's see here. Yeah, let's say that, let's just pretend that this was supposed to be a smooth pullback. We can see that this high is higher than the previous bar high. So that high would have violated the smooth pullback. And so that would have kind of canceled the trade there. Let's see here. Yeah, so we had there we go. So we had a break of the swing high. We got a long bar up, a smooth pullback to the gold line. Yeah, so we can see it's kind of more of an orange line actually. So yeah, the orange goldish line, right? So that's going to be the 9 EMA. And we got a pullback to it. And so we did get a signal. However, we can see that price continues to pull back. And as soon as a bar is below, the entire bar is below our 9 EMA, that invalidates the setup, that invalidates the signal. And so at that point, so we're actually going to have to create a exit signal, right? So this exit signal would then cancel the order in Blackbird, right? So we would actually have a buy stop resting above the bar here that touched the 9 EMA for at least one bar. Yeah, we'd have an order resting there, but since price, the next bar isn't entirely below the 9 EMA. So in other words, the high price is below the 9 EMA. That will use that to generate an exit signal, and then the exit signal will cancel that resting stop order. So that's why this was not called out, as a signal here. So let's see. All right. So next we have a bar breaks the swing high here, and then we get a smooth pullback. And yeah, so this long up bar, this up bar, we can see the wick touches the 9 EMA, and the white line represents let's see. Yeah, the white line actually was extended a little too far forward. So the green bar is the signal bar because it's the one that touched the 9 EMA. And so the order would be one tick above that green bar. So this white line's extending over a little too far, right? It's extending to the next bar over, but that bar doesn't actually touch the 9 EMAs here. So, all right. So this would be another kind of a classic setup here. We get the break, a couple of smooth pullback bars, and then we get the touch of the 9 EMA. And so that initiates the signal, and then the buy stop entry order is placed one tick above. And let's see what we have here. All right, yeah. Oh, yeah, so this is just another example here of the discretionary choice, of traders sometimes using the 1 minute SMA. Although if you are using the 1 minute SMA, you are supposed to change it from a 21 period to 105 period. Yeah, so you take, an SMA 21 on a 5 minute, and to kind of convert it and simulate the SMA from a 5 minute time frame on the 1 minute, right? You just multiply it by 5. So although this definitely does not look like 105 period SMA. So, all right, so I guess I stand corrected. This is a 21 period SMA on the 1 minute chart. So, yeah, so again, a lot of discretion kind of going on here, but we're going to strip all that out. When we implement this into BloodHound. Let's see here. Let's see what else we have. Yeah, here we go. So you see this red line? This definitely looks like 105 period SMA on the 1 minute chart to simulate the 21 period on the 5 minute chart. So, yeah. Here we go. Okay, great. Yeah, this was the last example I was looking for to help explain kind of all the variations that can happen with the pullback, right? So we can see we have a swing high here. We get this long up bar that breaks it, but then price keeps going higher and higher. And then finally we get a down bar. We finally get a down bar. And so that actually initiates the smooth pullback sequence, right? And so there does need to be kind of a limitation of how many bars can go higher, just for the sake of putting this into code, so to speak. There does need to be kind of a limitation here. So we are going to set a limitation here. I guess, based on this, we'll go, let's see here. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 bars to the down bar. So we'll set a 6 bar limit here. And then once we get a down bar, that initiates tracking or verifying the smooth pullback, right? So we get down bar, and then actually we didn't get a touch of the gold line. So this actually wasn't, let's see. This pullback broke 2 prior. I'm not sure what the pullback break-in 2 prior pivots has to do with this, but there is more discretionary to be added to this, but that it would require a custom indicator, and we'll kind of go over that here before we get started too here. So there was actual no trade signal here because this up bar didn't quite touch the EMA there, that 9 EMA. So, but this does help illustrate that when the swing is broken, that price can continue to go upwards. And then we start tracking the smooth pullback once we get our first red bar. Okay, so let's go over a couple of other last minute questions that we wanted, that Julius wanted to add to this system here, this question here. So let's see. Yeah, so this basically, you know, what was wanted to be added to this was to try and identify these swing breaks that are outside of some kind of, you know, zone here where there were previous swings, you know, swing lines here. And, you know, that level of complexity requires a custom indicator, right? BloodHound is not an indicator to identify zones. So you would need to create your own custom swing indicator that tracks its own prior zones the way you want them tracked. And then so this is in itself the definition of a custom indicator, right? This is not building a system. This is building a custom indicator to identify this custom zone that you want, right? So this is not something that in BloodHound does, right? BloodHound tracks indicator conditions, but it's not tracking charting conditions, right? So this would be, yeah, this would require, I'll just, yeah, keep it simple. This would require a custom swing indicator that's tracking its own swing points to tell you when you're out, when you've broken outside of a previous confluence zone, right? So I think typically a lot of people, a lot of traders refer to this as kind of like a confluence zone of previous swing highs and lows. Yeah, so that would, you know, that is definitely something outside the scope of BloodHound. Right. And then the other secondary requirement here is to kind of count, to limit the number of trades, right? Limit the number of trades, and that can be done. However, the reset condition that allows more trades to go through cannot be done within BloodHound. And the reason why is that, let's see, is that the reset condition that would allow more trades to go through, right? So essentially, you know, what we want is, oh, yeah, I kind of clipped out the important part, but they want to limit trades to only 3 trades, you know, 3 trades, and then wait for this kind of reset requirement, which is the fast moving average, which is the 9 EMA, crosses over the slow one, which is the red line, which is the 21 SMA, right? And the problem is that the gold line is on the 1 minute chart, whereas the slow moving average is on the 5 minute chart. And BloodHound does not mix and match time frames within a single solver, right? The entire solver is on one time frame and one time frame only. So, so this could be done if the fast MA and the slow MA are both on the same time frame. So if they're both on the 1 minute chart, or if they're both on the 5 minute chart, then this, you know, limitation of the number of signals can be done. So all right. So that is this system in a nutshell. So let me go back through here and look at the Q&A window before I get started. Okay, yeah, so let me clear out some of these comments that I already read here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Julius, we're not gonna, this is not a Blackbird workshop, so we're not going to set up the orders in this workshop. That will be tomorrow's workshop. All right, Julius is saying that the pullback to the 5-minute gold line does not have to be smooth. Only one. Okay, yeah, so I'll leave that up. That's going to be your discretion to build that. So I'm going to build the classic signal and then explain all the components, and then you can copy and paste what was built and then mix and match, you know, all the various components yourself. So there's just too many iterations to build in one workshop. You know, the point of this workshop is not to build what you want for free. The point of these workshops is to build a system and explain how the building process works so that you guys can learn. And then if you want various iterations, you know, I mean, usually I'll build one or two iterations, you know, sometimes, you know, it depends on the complexity. But if somebody tries to use this system to build all the iterations, you know, so they can get it built for free, I'm not going to do that. So that's not the point of this workshop, you know, to get somebody to build your stuff for free. The point of this workshop is to provide learning materials to learn how to do it yourself, right? And even our one-on-one training, you know, that you can purchase separately, it's called one-on-one training for a reason, because we're not really there to just build you a system. We're there to teach you how to build what you're building. So that way, at some point, you can then go and build stuff on your own, and you're no longer reliant on Stark indicators, you know, for help anymore. So, you know, our goal is always to make you self-proficient within BloodHound. And then you can go, you know, and build all the systems you want, you know, your heart's content, you know, on yourself, and you're no longer reliant on somebody else to do the work for you. So let's see here. So okay, okay. So there we go. Pullback explanation. All right, I'm just kind of going through all these comments here from Julius. Let's see here. All right, so yeah, it looks like I probably explained the entry, or I misread the chart wrong on something, but we'll get to that in tomorrow's workshop. Okay. Yeah, so Julius is asking, so can you make it so that the stop entry moves down with each close? Yes, yeah. Blackbird can trail entry orders just like it can trail stop orders, and it can move profit targets around as well. So your entries and your exit orders can all be moved around using the trailing actions within Blackbird. Yeah. All right. Well, Julius is telling me there's there's two systems. All right, Julius, that's not what we emailed back and forth. So I'm going to stick with what we agreed to in our emails. I'm going to put the SMA on the 5-minute data and the EMA9 on the 1-minute data. It's kind of too late now to change everything at the last minute. So I did ask for clarification on the time frames on those different moving averages. So yeah, I'm going to go with kind of what we agreed to in the email. So let's see, Julia said, okay, so all the signals he showed did touch the gold line. Yeah, they all did. Correct. Yeah. I'm right. This here on the chart, I was, hopefully everybody caught me saying that this was not a trade setup, and there's no text here showing this as a trade setup. Yeah. So, this was just a good example of what could happen before the pullback there. So, yeah, that's all this was. So, yeah, hopefully everybody else understood that. Okay, yeah, I'll leave it on here. Well, let's see. Yeah, all right. I'm not sure what image to leave this on. I may not need to refer back to these, so I'll just, let's just put that away for now. All right. So let's see here. Let's see. Let's see, actually, I'll leave that comment up there on the board. So again, once we're done building this, I will go back and go back and discuss all the various components and how you can mix and match all the different components, to build it the way you want it, and to also build different iterations as well. So you can get signals, from different setups, using the different timeframes and the different components here. So yes, I'll leave that comment up there. And so the one that I'm going to build is a little more complex than just putting everything on one time frame. So that will provide a little more complexity. And then if you want to just simplify everything down to just one time frame, it'll be a lot easier for you to do that on your own there. So yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, there's a lot of complexity in this. So it took a little while to explain, but I think we're ready to go. So let's recap what I have on my chart here. So just, for the sake that, so we can visualize here, I have a 5-minute on my chart, and I have the SMA 21 there on it as well. And I'm just going to minimize it here, because, the role that it plays is basically it's the trend filter, right? So anybody who's seen, a fair number of these workshop videos, have probably seen a lot of questions where, you compare, the price to some moving average as a trend filter. So that's what this 5-minute is doing, is it's acting as the higher time frame kind of trend directional filter there. Right, so we can keep that minimized. And then on the 1-minute chart, where the signals primarily come from, again, you can mix and match this so you can make a pure 5-minute signal system. But I guess the standardized version of this, coming from Bob Anderson, is that the signals are primarily taken on the 1 minute chart. And so we have the 9 EMA and we have the swing indicator there. So we can see the gold and the blue swing indicator there on the chart as well. And yeah, that's it. All right. So with that, let's start building some of the bits and pieces that we're going to need to build this system. So, all right. So first thing we need is, right, we need this 5 minute time frame here. So let's add, let's see, where is it? There it is. So we can use the add chart button here. And there's also one, let's see, where did it go? There it is, right there. So there's the chart button right there. And so that's how you add other time frames or other charts to your system here. So there it is. We're just going to adjust this to 5 minute period. There we go. Right. And the reason why this is called a chart is because you can also change the instrument. So you could literally add a different chart or a different instrument to make it a completely different chart. But, you know, technically speaking, a 5 minute time frame is a different chart. So, okay, so we have our 5 minute time frame. And so now the next step is, let's see here. Yeah, you know, oh, man, ever since I added this 5 minute time frame to my chart, NinjaTrader has just gotten really groggy after that. But in any case, when you add another time frame, you have to reload the chart. So that's the only way that we can get a 5 minute time frame to be added to BloodHound to use. So we do have to go and reload our chart like that. And then you'll notice in the label here for BloodHound, we have the 1 minute time frame, and we also have the 5 minute time frame also included with BloodHound here. So that's why we had to reload the chart so that we could get NinjaTrader to also include the 5 minute time frame within the indicator there. All right, so now, so let's just start by building the SMA filter here. So we'll compare the close of the bar to the SMA. So we're going to add a comparison solver on the 5 minute chart. So there's our comparison solver. Right, and you'll notice it has, you know, a label 5 minutes above the solver, you know, so that tells you which time frame or what chart this solver is running on. So we're going to compare close to the SMA 21. Right. So input A is going to be price. And again, this is going to be the price of the 5 minute chart. Right. So these are the closing prices of the 5 minute chart there. So, and then the input B is going to be the SMA 21. So we just need to open up the SMA and change it to a 21 period. So and let's see. Oh, also, let's open up the rules window here. So for a long signal, right? We want the close to be greater than the SMA 21. And for a short signal, we want the close to be less than the SMA. So, right, the standard default settings are all that we need for this. And yeah. All right, I might have to remove this secondary data series. You know, I've had this problem before with NinjaTrader. So, but let's reload this. Yeah, so there we go. That's what I was expecting to see, right? So whenever the bar close is above the SMA, right? That's our long trade trend filter. And of course, if the bars close below the SMA, then we're in a short trade trend filter. All right, there we go. Let's see. All right, now that we have our trend filter, let's identify the break of the swing of these swing lines here. Let me make a couple of adjustments to my indicators. Let me turn off the auto scaling. All right, yeah. Adding this secondary time frame just killed this chart. All right, I'm going to remove that and see if that helps. Okay, good. That removed the SMA as well. There. All right, so we're going to identify these swing breaks here. Like that, there. Now, one thing, let's see, yeah, shoot. Can't shrink that up too much. All right, so one thing to note here. There, all right, I'll just have to keep the scaling locked for a moment. So the one thing you'll notice about the swing indicator is when price does touch it, or punches through it, not touch it, but punches through it, right? Breaks through it, that the plot stops. So we don't actually have a blue dot on the bar that broke through it. So we actually have to refer back one bar to the swing indicator to identify, right, these breaks. So, but we'll see that in just a moment once I set the solver up. All right. So to identify these swing breaks, so for a long swing break, we're gonna compare the high to the swing plot, or for a short, we're comparing the low price to the swing plot, right? So let's go to our solvers here, and we're gonna do this on the 1 minute chart. So that's the default time frame, is the 1 minute chart, because BloodHound is running on the 1 minute chart. So the 1 minute chart is always the default time frame. Unless, of course, you change your chart. You know, if you change your chart to a 2 minute chart, then the default time frame becomes a 2 minute time frame. So, but in any case, let's add our comparison solver. Connect that in. And let's give this a name. So for a long, looking at the high price. So for short, we're looking at the low price. And there. All right, so we're looking for a break of the swing, and we're using a 5 period, right? So yeah, this is a standard 5 period swing there. So, all right, so input A, that's going to be price. And so again, for a long breakout, we're looking at the high of the bar. And so for a short break, we're looking at the low of the bar. And then input B, that's the swing indicator. So let's search for SW. There's our swing indicator. And we'll leave the strength at 5. And now we need to pick the appropriate plots here. So we're using the swing high for a long breakout and the swing low for a short break. And there we go. And so you notice, right, there's no signals yet. Why is that? Well, that's because we're looking at the swing indicator of the current bar. So remember how I said the plot stops, right? There is no plot on the bar that breaks it. So we have to look back 1 bar onto the swing indicator. And so that's what NinjaTrader's displacement function allows us to do. So let's add a displacement of 1. And there we go. So input A is the current bar's high, and input B is the swing indicator, but it's displaced by 1 bar. Or in other words, we're looking back 1 bar, right? So we're comparing it to 1 bar back. And so there we go. There is our swing breaks right there. Let's see here. Let's see, another component that we're going to need is when a bar touches the 9 EMA. So this bar that also broke the swing high is also touching the 9 EMA as well. Yeah, and that actually adds a little bit of complexity here. Yeah, let's see. There's no pullback, but you know, sometimes, yeah, sometimes you don't actually get a pullback. So again, you know, it depends on how you're mixing and matching stuff here. But let's just, you know, we're going to keep things simple and make all the kind of basic building blocks that we're going to need later on here. So let's, yeah, let's identify a bar that's touching the 9 EMA. So to do that, we need another comparison solver, right? So when a bar touches the 9 EMA, the high price is above it and the low price is below it. So we're going to compare the high and the low to the EMA9. So input A will be the high and low prices. High and low prices, right? So I'll use the high price to generate a long output and the low price to generate a short output. And input B, that's our EMA9. There's our EMA. Put the 9 period in there. And so what we're looking for are the bars that have a long and a short output at the same time. So actually we can see here, yeah, we have 3 bars here that are all touching that 9 EMA. And we can see that because we have a long and a short output at the same time, right? So we need to get rid of the long only output, and vice versa, the short only output. We only want to keep the bars that have a long and a short together, right? Because those are the bars that are actually touching the EMA. So to filter those bars out, we're going to use a function node, and we're going to use the long short modifier. Put that in. And the mode that we want is product, right? And if you remember from school, like middle school, product is just a fancy name for multiplication, right? So what the long short modifier is doing is it's multiplying the long output by the short output, right? And so when we had a long only output, the long equaled 1, but the short equaled 0 because there was no short. And so 0 times 1 equals 0, right? So that's how you strip out the long only and the short only, is you multiply those outputs together. And so when you have a long equaling 1, short equaling 1, 1 times 1 equals 1. And so you get to keep these bars here with the long and short output. All right. There we go. So I'll just label this product. Actually, let's call this something here. There we go. All right, I'll give it a little more direct name here. So this is actually the 9 EMA touch bars there. Let's see. All right. Now things, yeah, okay, so now this is where we're going to start building in the pullback, that smooth pullback after a swing break. Right, so okay, so actually, yeah, this is where I'm going to go back to my images, right? So remember that sometimes price can keep extending or breaking out, outwards, forwards, outside, after breaking that, right? So we need to kind of account for that first before we start looking for the smooth pullback, right? So let's see, where is our, there we go. Here is our swing break. Actually, I'm going to move this guy out of the way. So, so when we get a swing break, it also needs to match up with our trend filter, right? So if you remember, our trend filter is on the 5-minute chart, and we're just comparing the close of the bar to the SMA. Right. So let's look at that. Right. So this actually, I'm going to do something here. So remember, if you remember the previous question, I allowed us to look at another condition, and I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to allow us to actually, oops, wrong one. So I want to be able to see the trend filter. Right. So let's see. So we just call this trend filter. So we can look at this close versus the SMA there. And because we don't want this to be a signal, we just want to see kind of the output here of what the trend filter is. So if I connect that together, there we go. Right. So we see this short output, but there, if you notice, there's no racing stripes, right? Because if you look at the output, it's only negative 0.2. So that's not actually a signal. So if I scale everything down, if I shrink everything down, there we go. So I'm going to keep the scaling fixed here, right? So we can see that we're in a downtrend according to the 5-minute chart, right? So obviously breaks, breaking the swing highs, we don't care about. But there we go, breaking that swing low. Yeah, we are looking for those breaks of the swing low for a short signal. And as we have some luck with this, we actually have a smooth pullback as well on this one. But what I really want to try and find is price continuing to move forward for at least one bar, if not several bars. So that way we have something to work with. Okay, yeah, so here we go. So we have price continuing to move down, right? We never get the pullback, but we can use this to help us build, this part that allows for price to keep moving forward before it does the pullback. Let's see, let's call this AND node the swing break. All right, so we're going to take the swing break and we need to extend it forward. So we're going to use a signal extender. And oh, hold on. Let's see. Let me go back to the email here. Okay, yeah, so here we go. So we have 8 to 10 bars, maybe 12 bars max. Yeah, I'm actually gonna cap this to 8 bars. Yeah. So all right, so we're gonna allow a maximum of 8 bars past this break to occur before a pullback must start. Right? Obviously, the longer you allow, the market to keep going after the break, the messier the price action you could get. And that also means the messier that your system will have to be to try and compensate for the mess that the market can throw at you, with all the different type of price action there. So just, a little tip there that when you allow, a prerequisite to, or, when you have a prerequisite occurring, such as the swing break, and then you want to allow, you want to make an allowance for price to kind of keep doing something that you don't really want it to do, but it can do that before you're looking for the next requirement, right? So our next requirement is that smooth pullback, right? So the more you allow these kind of exceptions here, or the longer you allow these exceptions, kind of the more complicated you'll find that it will typically make your system, because you just have to account for more variations in price. So, right. And the same thing goes for, when you're actually custom coding an indicator, like for example, kind of one of the examples I use a lot is when people want to use BloodHound to find like Japanese candlestick patterns. Sure, BloodHound can use a bunch of comparison solvers and it can find simple bar patterns like a engulfing bar or an engulfing bar or an inside bar, right? That's a very simple bar pattern, but to find, real complex bar patterns, you do need a dedicated indicator to do that, and so the indicator can actually code in, all the variations that can happen, and this candlestick pattern that, comes with an indicator, it also has like a strength, a trend strength as well, which is something that you can't do with BloodHound. BloodHound relies on indicators to do the heavy complex calculations, and just think of BloodHound really as the gluing all these indicators together, right? BloodHound is not the indicator that finds all this stuff. It's the glue that glues all these indicators together into a system. So it's kind of the analogy I like to look here. Right? So once you start building in, or once you want to allow for all these variations, then you're getting into the realm of probably needing a custom indicator to do some of that heavy lifting and complex analysis to allow that variation, right? That's what indicators do, is they allow for those variations. So, all right. So again, we're going to limit the number of these continuation bars here to 8. For this. Let's see here. So, all right. So my signal extender, I need to go back to the properties tab. Up this to 8 there. And let's see here. We're going to need, some resets on this, but we'll come back to this as we discover them. So for now, I'm just going to turn off all the resets here. There. Right. So there we go. So we have that swing break. And so this output, right, from the signal extender, right now, it's just telling us how long price has until it has to start making a pullback. And let's see here, the other requirement, let's see here. Yeah, so the other requirement is that these all would have to be down bars, right? So in order for this to be considered, price moving forward, is these all would have to be down bars for a short signal. Or when we get this break of the swing high, they all would have to be up bars to be considered a continuation, right? As soon as we get a bar, a pullback bar, in other words, a bar in the opposite direction, right? That starts the pullback bar. So, all right, let's see here. So we know that we need continuous down bars, right, for this short signal extender. As soon as we get this up bar, so right, bingo, there's an up bar. So that's going to start the pullback sequence, just like this down bar is going to start the pullback sequence for a possible long signal. So we can take a bar direction solver here, right? But look at this, right? So as long as we have a short output, right, identifying down bars, then we're good. But if we get a long signal here, or we get this up bar, well, that's when we need to turn off the signal extender there. So let's look at that. Let's connect this in to the reset. There, so let's go into our resets. And so we're using the reset connector. So we're looking for, right, the first keyword needs to be reset. And we're looking for an opposite signal, right? Because remember, the up bar generates a long output or a long signal, and that's opposite of this short output. So there we go. And there we go. So you'll notice that the signal extender actually turns off on the reset bar. So we don't quite want to turn it off that soon. Let's turn it off. Let's at least allow the signal extender on the pullback bar. So the bar direction, it actually has kind of a look back built into it, or it has what you could consider a displacement built into it, but it's not technically a displacement, so it's called start bars go. Again, this is technical programming terminology that NinjaTrader uses. They use the term start bars go in this context, but it's basically doing the same thing as the displacement function. So if we set that to 1, okay, and there we go. So now our signal extender at least lasts until the first pullback bar, right? And now if we look at the bar direction, right, you'll notice there we go. There's an up bar, but the long output is on the next bar, right? And there's an up bar, but the long output's on the next bar, right? So you can see that essentially the start bars ago is providing the same functionality as the displacement. But we always like to use the same terminology that NinjaTrader uses as well. We don't want you guys to have to learn a whole new vocabulary just for BloodHound. So we always try and use the same terminology that NinjaTrader has already created within their help guide. So, okay, so there we go. So we have our, what did I? Oh, shoot. Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah, good. I'm glad we kind of ran into this. So yeah, okay, so let me explain here. I'm just trying to think of what solution I wanted for this. But what's happening here is this down bar, right? This long, this short output was shifted forward onto this bar, and then it turned so this prior down bar actually killed the signal extender too soon. So yeah, so we need to make sure that our resets can only reset after we get a price break. So let's see here. Man, trying to remember how I did this before. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I'm actually going to reverse what I did. All right. Yeah. So we still have the same problem here. Right. So I undid the bar direction, shifting the signals forward. And right, so we have the same problem there as well. So yeah, I think a simpler solution here is I'm going to take a look back node and just use that to extend. So I'm going to use the displacement function in this look back node. So right, and so there we have it. So we have the break, and then we actually have, right, a signal to work with on the pullback bar, right? So we have a signal to work with on the pullback bar. So, yeah, break, pullback bar. Okay. All right. I'll just call this pullbacks just to keep it short and simple here. Let's see here. All right. So the pullbacks, again, we don't know how many bars it's going to take to pull back here. Normally you can see, right, a 9 EMA hugs price pretty tight. But if you are kind of mixing and matching your time frames, right, like if this is the 9 EMA on the 5-minute chart, it's probably further out, or I'm sorry, yeah, it's probably further down, or in this case, it'd be further up, right? So bottom line is you don't know how many pullback bars it might take. So you do need to allow for several pullback bars. especially if, let's see, like back here. Yeah, I see like back here, right? The breakout bar, was really long. And then after that, that might take a couple of pullback bars to get back to 9 EMA. So after the pullback here, let's see. Yeah, I may actually get rid of this and node here in a minute. But for now, I'll just keep it so we have the name here. But what we need is another signal extender, right? So we have to take this, the first pullback. That's probably a better label, right? This is the first pullback, or really the first pullback bar. There we go, first pullback bar. And so now we need another signal extender. Let's say, I can't imagine needing more than 5 bars to get back there. I'll reduce it down to 4 for now. And of course, you can always increase the number of bars if you find out later that you need more bars, for the pullback, for the pullbacks to occur. So let's just call this 4 bar for now. There we go. Let's see, what is this? Oh, that's weird. Hang on a moment. I don't even have today's data on the chart. Okay. I know I was connected to my data feed when I first started Ninja up, but in any case, there we go. All right, so now we have today's data on there as well. Let's see. Oh, look at here. Perfect. Look at that. So we have, right, the breakout bar, another, continuation bar, I guess you could call it, another forward moving bar, and then we start getting our pullback bars. So, right. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah. So there you go. That's why I had this AND node, right? So you see how, right? So let's go back to the signal extender. Right. So remember, this signal extender is after the swing break, right? And so we actually have two up bars, right? 2 continuation bars, and then we shift those 2 signals forward onto the reversal bar, and then that just keeps getting, so we start from that, and then we just extend further out for the pullback bars. So what I'm going to do is at this AND node, I'm going to eliminate, I guess this is not necessary, but it's nice for us visually to see something that looks cleaner. As far as building a system, we don't need to clean this up, but I can clean this up just by, just by grabbing another bar direction. And we're actually going to reverse the signals here. There we go. And I can plug that in there. And then, right, you'll notice, right, we're only left the long signal on an up bar, but we want the long signal on the down bar because the down bar, that's our first pullback bar. So if I hit the swap on a bar direction, there we go, right? So the swap, you know, what's that doing? So when we get up bars, right, we swap the signals. So now we have short output on up bars, and on down bars, we have a long output, right? So when you combine that with an AND node, there. So now this is our first pullback bar. There we go. So now when we look at the signal extender, there you go. There's our signal. So that's just telling us how many bars these pullback bars have before it hits the EMA9, right? So now we need to turn off the signal extender when price hits that 9 EMI or 9 EMA. And there we go. So remember this back here, we built this earlier, you know, for the right, for the EMA touch there. So let's move that forward. There we go. And we're going to combine that together. Right. So remember, this is our pullback bar. And combine that with the 9 EMA touch. And if you look at this, right? So there. So now we have the signals after the 9 EMA touch. But we're not close yet. So remember, we need a smooth pullback. So what happens if we don't get a smooth pullback? Let's see if we can find pullback that's not smooth. So actually, let's look at that first. Yeah, here we go. All right, so there's our pullback bar. And then the next bar, so that the high can actually be equal, it just can't be higher than the previous bar. All right, so we're okay here, but this next bar does make a higher high. So that violates our smooth pullback. There. All right, so we'll mark that as kind of like our violation of the smooth pullback there. And if you look here, right, we got the breakout. And man, price just kept on going until we finally made a down bar. Right. So, and that started our pullback. So, so now we're looking for that smooth pullback. So let's build the solver that's going to validate the smooth pullback. So this actually, all of this kind of comes later. Actually, let's just disconnect that. So this will all come later. All right, so the smooth pullback, all we have to do is to simply monitor the highs and the lows to make sure that the highs are either equal or less than the previous bar. Right, so we're doing comparisons, right? We're comparing the highs to the highs and the lows to the lows. So let's connect that up there. So let's see. So this would be for a long setup here. Yeah. So for a long signal, the pullback, we need to monitor the highs. And so it's going to be the high, right, of let's see, how do I want to do this? I might reverse this from normal. Nah. All right, we'll look at the high and the low, right, of the current bar, and compare that to the high and low of one bar back to make sure that the highs are stepping lower and the lows are stepping higher. All right, so input A is going to be price. Input B is also going to be price. And so for a long signal, we're looking at the high of the bars. And so for a short signal, it's the opposite. And then input B, that's going to be one bar back. So we're going to adjust the look back to 2. All right, so, oh, and let's go into the rules window here. Oh, I made a mistake. There we go. Yeah, so there you go. Input A. That needed to be the low price. There we go. All right. So I'm actually gonna reverse things around here. Let's see. You know, again, when you're building kind of a reset signal or a invalidation signal, you know, it doesn't really matter. You know, I could build, so on this bar here where the high goes higher, you know, I could generate a long signal like I already have, but I like to keep things kind of consistent and I guess more intuitive to understand. So when these pullback bars, when we get a violation of these pullback bars, I'm going to generate a short output, right? Because this pullback is for a long signal, right? So if this pullback had worked out and pulled back smoothly, it would have generated a long trade signal, right? Because we have a swing high being broken here. So ultimately, this is a potential long signal being generated. So if this smooth pullback is violated, I'm going to generate a short output to turn off the signal extender. Right. That way I keep in context with the reset signal back here. So again, the reset signal back here, right? I'm using an opposite signal to reset it. And so I'm going to do the same thing here, right? So we have a long output, and so I'm going to use a short signal, which is opposite of what's being extended. Actually, let's look at that. There we go. Yeah, so the signal extender is extending a potential long signal for a potential long trade setup. So I'm going to use a short signal to kill this long output. So with this solver, let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to reverse things. So for a short, actually, yeah, so let me just reverse the name of this. So the low prices will generate a long output, and the high prices will generate a short output. So let's reverse these prices. All right, so now when we go into the rules window here we go. So now when I look at this, right, for a short output, it's using the high prices. So if the current bar high is greater than the previous bar's high. So remember, the high of input B, right, input B, right, input B is 2 bars back, right, or I'm sorry, well, a look back period of 2, that's 1 bar back, right? So if the current bar high is greater than the previous bar's high, then we want to generate a short output. And so the reverse for when we're looking at the low prices, we want to generate a long signal to invalidate or reset a potential short signal. So let's hit apply. And yeah, so, oh, and sorry. Let's see here. No, that is correct. Yeah. So we have our first pullback bar, and we might have to be mindful of the short signal here. Yeah, we might have to figure out a way to strip out this short signal on the first pullback bar. Right? But when we get to the second pullback bar, right, there's no short output. But when we get to this third bar, remember the high is higher than the previous bar, there's our short signal. So that's the short signal of this smooth pullback being violated. And that's what we want to use to turn off the signal extender. So let's look at this. Plug that in. All right, yeah, so we do have a problem. So it did get turned off here on this bar, because remember if we look at a reset here, right, this first pullback bar actually had a short output on it. So let's see, we need to let's see. Yeah, so I can use this output from the first pullback bar to prevent any kind of a signal, to prevent any kind of a signal from the reset here. So yeah, this is going to get a little complex here, but so all right, so I'm going to take a function node. And yeah, so I'm going to take a long short modifier. And yeah, so I'm going to mark that to remind me that's our first pullback bar. And I'm going to use, this time I'm going to use the addition. There we go. All right, so I actually get an output here. But then I'm going to invert everything, right? So when I invert it, you can see on the very first pullback bar, now there is no output, but afterwards I get an output. So I can combine this using an AND node. I can combine my reset with basically this function node has become kind of like a permissive, a permissive here. And it's saying, okay, you don't have the permission to reset on the first pullback bar, right? There's no output on that first pullback bar. So if I look at this AND node, right, I can't, so we can never get any kind of a reset signal on the first pullback bar, right? So, yeah, so this is kind of a reverse permissive from the first pullback bar. Let's call this let's see, what should we call this? There you go. So really, this is a pullback violation. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Disconnect that. So we have our pullback. This next bar doesn't violate the smooth pullback yet because the highs are equal. But this next bar has a higher high. And that short output on that higher high is the reset for this signal extender. And let's open up. Yeah, we need to open up our resets here. And we don't want the reset signal. We want the reset opposite signal again. So, right. So remember in this previous signal extender, I'm using the same resets here. So I'm going to stay with that theme just to keep a consistency within building this system here. It's a little, right, it's a little easier to comprehend what's going on after the fact when you look back at this later, if you keep a consistency with your reset signals. So click OK. So there we go, pullback bar. The next bar is okay, but the next bar violates it. And then our signal extender turns off, and that kills the possibility of that pullback signal. All right, so what's coming out of this AND node is essentially the smooth pullback. All right, so let me scan through here and take a look. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So we're only looking at the smooth pullback here. So here we go. Oh, markets are closed. Okay, we're at the 4-hour mark. All right, so we have a swing high break, and then we get a pullback, another pullback, and another pullback, right? So the highs are going lower. So we're still in a smooth pullback. And then we get a higher high, and so the pullbacks are violated. Here's probably a better looking example, right? Break of the swing high. And then we get, yeah, so we actually had an up bar. And then we had a down bar that started the smooth pullback there. Yeah, we could, yeah, let's see, we could add in a little more complexity here where even though we had an up bar, because it had a lower high, you know, we could say, okay, that actually starts the pullback, is the lower high, even though it's an up bar, right? Let's see here. So here, yeah, we have bars going higher, and then we get a down bar starting the pullback. So yeah, let's try and address this situation here. Come on. There we go. Where, right, that lower high starts the pullback. Yeah, so we'll use a combination here. So a down bar, right, or a bar in the opposite direction starts the pullback. But also, you know, the bar high or the bar low could start the pullback. So let's look at that. All right, so remember, here we go. So this kind of illustrates why it's important to label your AND nodes, you know, and you know, maybe your OR nodes, so that you know where to look within your system here. So I labeled this guy, right, the first pullback bar. So there you go. So right now, right, I can see all I have is this, right, reversed bar direction. So right now we're only using the bar direction to identify the first pullback, right? And we can see that here because the long output starts on this down bar, right? So let's expand upon that. So yeah, I'm gonna need to move this stuff out of the way a little bit. There we go. All right, so let's just expand upon that. And I wonder if I already have a solver built. No, it's not that one. Nope, doesn't look like it. All right, so we're going to build another comparison solver. There. All right, let's turn off the snapping there. Yeah, you know, so if you find that the snapping kind of gets in your way sometimes, remember, you can just turn the snapping on and off, right? So you see how like I can't move this up a little bit because it's trying to snap to the signal extender. So you can turn the snapping off if it kind of gets in your way there. There, I can move this a little closer. All right, so this comparison solver, you know, for a potential long signal, a long trade signal, you know, if the highs move lower, then that's also the first pullback bar, you know, and vice versa, right? If the low moves higher for a short signal. So all right, so this time we're going to compare the high and the low, right, of the current bar, right, to the high and low of the second bar. All right, so let's put all these, or set up all the inputs here and put the prices in. All right, input B, remember input B is going to be the previous bar, right? So we want to find for a long setup, we're looking for a lower high, right? So we want input A to be less than, right, or lower than input B. So let's go into the rules window. All right. So we want the high, right, the high of the current bar to not be greater, but we want it to be less than, than the high of the previous bar. So let's reverse this and oh, let's see. Oh, okay. I didn't quite hit the look back period. I didn't quite click on it close enough. There we go. Let's increase the look back to 2. There we go. Okay, and there we have it. Right. So when that low, or when that high is lower, there we go. And so we can see we get 3 long outputs, right? Because these highs are stepping lower. There we go. And so now we need a OR node. Okay, so this OR node basically here we go. All right, so this OR node well, it's the 2 conditions for the first pullback bar. Yeah, no, I'll just keep it like that. All right. So yeah, so there we go. So now this up bar is recognized as a pullback. There we go. All right, so let's take a look at what we have. And yeah, great. So there we go. So we have the swing high break. And oh, all right. So BloodHound was still trying to calculate stuff when I was connecting things around too much. All right. I was going a little too fast for BloodHound. There we go. Connect that in. Call it good. There we go. All right. So we have the swing high break, and then a lower high starts the pullback. Swing high break, lower high starts the pullback. Let's see. All right. So there we go. Swing high break, and we get up bar, and then we get a down bar. And so that down bar starts the pullback tracking, right? Starts the smooth pullback tracking, right? The swing high break, and it looks like a down bar. I don't know, that could be a lower high. It's kind of hard to tell at this scaling here. Let's see, yeah, we were just looking at those. All right, so again, I'm just analyzing these pullback signals, right? So what we're looking at right now are the pullback signals. And so here is a good example of what I want to see, right? Okay, so we get, oh yeah, actually this is a good example here. So I didn't spot this at first. So we get the swing high break, and then we get a lower high. So that starts the pullback. But look here, we got some other pullback signals afterwards. So let's see here. Yeah, so why? Oh, yeah. So let's look at the first pullback bar. Right? The problem is this first pullback bar, yeah, so we had a lower high, and that snuck through as a pullback bar when we got this lower high. And that's because this signal extender didn't get turned off. Right? So if we track this back, let's look back one connection back, right? We can see this signal extender is still on. So yeah, so we need to turn off this signal extender. Let's see, yeah, we're just using a bar direction. All right. Yeah. So the same, essentially, we're kind of using the reverse logic here to identify the first pullback as what we're using to reset this signal extender. All right. So this bar direction. Right. This bar direction is just using a down bar, which generates a short output to identify the first pullback bar, right? Just like here, to find the first pullback, right? We've kind of reversed everything. So this bar direction has the swap turned on, right, to reverse the signals. And then this comparison solver also, we're, within the rules window, we're kind of reversing everything in the rules window here. So we need, since we expanded the pullback bar definition here, we also need to expand it back here to turn off this signal extender earlier. Yeah. And actually, I'm thinking, let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to try and just test a little shortcut here. So, what could I use? Okay, I'm just going to use a dummy OR node here that I can use to actually, yeah, I could have used that OR node now, but back in BloodHound version 1, I would have had to use a long short modifier here and just use the swap mode. Let's see if that, yeah, bingo, that works. Okay. So, all right, so I'm not, yeah, so that actually works. All right, let me just get everything named and put in place here, and then we'll kind of recap what I did. Okay, so I have this OR node that's finding, basically the basic conditions of the first pullback bar. All right, and so I can now use that to turn off the signal extender, and I can use that to actually find or identify the first pullback bar, right? So, and the output is, let's see, yeah, the outputs are different. So when I find the first pullback, right? So remember, so for here, right, we had the break of a swing high. And so this means we're looking for a potential long signal. So this first pullback needs to have a long output going into it to identify the first pullback, right? Because this gets used to generate the trace signal. Now, when this find the first pullback is used with the signal extender, it's used in the reset. And so if you remember, I wanted opposite signals to turn off these function nodes, right? So this signal extender and this signal extender is using signals in the opposite direction. So since this is generating signals in the direction of the trade or of the signal, right? It's generating an output in the direction of the trade signal. I had to swap it or reverse it so that I could then use it to turn off the signal extender. But I need the signal, or I need the output of this in the direction of the trade signal, so that way at this AND node, the output is in the direction of the trade signal. Right? So it sounds kind of convoluted, but the concept is very simple. So as we go down this chain of nodes, right, the output needs to be in the direction of the trade signal that we're looking for. And since we have a long breakout, well, we're looking for a possible long trade signal. But when we're resetting these function nodes, these signal extenders, when we're resetting them, we're using a short output, right, to reset them, right? Even though this is possibly going to be a long trade signal, we're using a short signal to reset them, right? So remember that everything going into the resets is in the opposite direction as the trade signal. So that's why we have this swap here to reverse the signals for resetting the signal extender. So now this AND node, everything was built in the reverse fashion so that this AND node is generating a short signal to turn off this signal extender, right? And if you recall this long short modifier, and let's actually, this is using the addition mode. Yeah, so with this guy, I actually inverted it, which is kind of a more sophisticated way of swapping everything, to reset the signal extender. So, all right. So we're building our way there, and I hope this also you kind of caught on, the concept here that I'm also teaching, which is, when you're building something, you're taking incremental steps, and you're always, and when you're building something as complex as this, where there could be a lot of different price behavior going on, right? Then you're going to go back and you're going to readjust things from time to time, right? So you're going to build along and you're going to see something. You go, okay, I need to take a step back and kind of reevaluate stuff or adjust the system here to compensate for what the market can throw at you, right? So it's a constantly evolving, system that you're building, right? You're constantly evolving the system as you find, various price action, that can occur here. All right. Let's see where we're at now. All right, so I needed to, I needed to get rid of those kind of rogue pullback signals here that happened after this lower high. So there we go. So we got this solved. So I'm just going to continue to look at these pullback bars, to make sure that that these outputs that are identifying the pullback bars, I want to make sure that they're all correct here. All right, break, and we get a pullback, and then we get a violation. Okay, good. So here we go, some pullback bars, and then we get a violation. All right, we get a swing break, pullback, 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 and then a violation. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so we get a swing break, and then we actually get an extension. But let's see. Yeah, we get an extension. Those are equal. So I guess, yeah, that would be an extension. But then we get an up bar, right? A bar in the reverse direction. So that would be our first pullback bar. And then it immediately gets violated. So there. All right. Yeah. Go higher high. So that gets violated. All right. Here's a long sequence of pullback bars. All right, swing break. And then we get our pullback, 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 pullback. And then basically the number of bars comes to an end. Yeah, so remember there you do have to set a limitation to the number of pullback bars here. So, and I did set it, somewhat conservative. I set it to 4 bars, which includes the first pullback bar. So let's see. Oh, actually, no. Is it? Yeah. Uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So it's 4 bars after the first pullback. There we go. First pullback, and then we get 4 bars afterwards. Yeah. Okay. So I think we're good with the pullback. I've checked enough places here where, yeah, I think we've accounted for all the kind of price action variations that we could get with this pullback here. So I think we're good to go. So now really the final step is to tie in the actual trade trigger, right, which is price touching the EMA9. Right, so if we connect that in, right, so there we go. So we get a bunch of bars touching the EMA9. So if we look at this, actually, well, yeah, we'll look at this one first here. Right? So there's the bar touching the EMA9. And so that initiates placing the stop entry order. And yeah. And so at that point, Blackbird will take over and start trailing the stop order down as price, moves down. So yeah. Now there is something here that I could see. So this kind of gave me a heads up, just thinking of all the, of what could happen here. This gave me a heads up of where the order might actually get picked up, and then we well, actually, yeah, if the order gets picked up, it's not going to matter if Blackbird gets more entry signals. It's not going to matter to Blackbird because Blackbird's not going to keep placing entry orders. So actually, maybe what I'm thinking of may not be an issue. So, but I am going to scan through here and just see. So, yeah, just, you know, we're not quite done yet here because remember that if we get a bar like this, a bar where the entire bar is on the wrong side, on the opposite side of the EMA, we do need to generate that exit signal, right, that will cancel the entry order. So we still need to get around to doing that. Yeah, so what will happen here, right, is Blackbird will place our stop, our buy stop entry, and then it'll trail it down here, right, to the bar high. So we want the top of the bar. So one tick above the top of the bar. And then we can see eventually, yeah, that, right, the market will fill that order. And so we're long one contract. And so when Blackbird sees this long signal, it's going to ignore it because we're already long. We already have a position open. So Blackbird will ignore additional long trade signals because it already has a long position open. So it has that built-in functionality where Blackbird's going to ignore additional buy signals so that you don't run into, or so that way, so you don't keep stacking trade signals on and run into a margin call. So so we can utilize that built-in functionality built into Raven and Blackbird to ignore, you know, additional buy signals when it already has a long trade open. All right, so I'm just going to scan through the chart here and just kind of look to see what the market might throw at us to try and see if there's some kind of unknown situation that we may need to address. Yeah, just a comment on this. So here's kind of a classic, you know, nice looking scenario. We get the swing break, price continues to move forward, and then we get our pullback bar, and then we get, yeah, a 3-bar pullback. So we get that smooth pullback of the highs stepping lower, and then we get that touch. And then the signal ends because the next bar actually violates the pullback, right? Whereas previously, you know, the highs are still kind of in that smooth pullback mode, right? Or behavior, I should say, yeah. Yeah, so again, we get the bars touching, but the highs are still stepping lower, still in that smooth pullback behavior. So, and of course, yeah, that stop order would get filled right there. And then the second long trade signal actually just gets ignored by Blackbird. Yeah. So that would be an exit signal right there. So here's something, yeah, worth noting. All right, yeah. So the buy stop order is at the high, you know, and you never know if that actually would have gotten filled because price touched it, but there may not have been enough volume to actually fill you. But let's say you did get filled, theoretically, you got filled, right? And then we have an exit signal. Yeah. So what would happen here is if that entry order did get filled, we would have gotten an exit signal here, and that would have just closed out the trade, right? That would have exited the position there with that exit order. So I should say exit signal, not exit order. Yeah, no fill there, just an exit signal. All right, so I think we're, yeah, I think we have a good fundamental basis for this interest signal. So let's kind of recap, you know, how you would move around, you know, the various solvers so that you can mix and match, you know, the time frames of these two, you know, key moving averages, right? So the EMA, you know, and the SMA is what you could use to trigger the trade, right? And also you could move around. Excuse me. Hold on, let me take a drink of water here. All right, yeah, we're approaching the 5-hour mark here, so I guess I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit. So yeah, so let's take a recap here of this. All right. Yeah. So you remember earlier, I said I kind of wanted to be able to look at the trend directional filter, right? So I still have that there, right? That's this OR node here. All right. So I have my trend filter solver, right? Looking at the 5-minute trend filter there, and going into that OR node. And again, the way I got this to work, right, is this OR node. If you go to the options tab, right, I have the output reduced to a maximum of 0.2, right? And that's what this tiny little output here is, right? So you can see that we have this long and short output flipping back and forth, right? And that's the 5-minute bar, compared to the SMA 21, so that way we can visually see, our trend filter, and so we can kind of know, so it gives us a heads up as to whether we should be expecting a long signal or a short signal, popping up there. And so I have that going into another OR node, and then this is the actual trade signal here. And so I just called it the EMA, touch signal there. And obviously that's the EMA9. There we go. So, so this, right? So this EMA touch signal, right? This is where you could, where you can change whether, actually, oops, there we go. So you can adjust this to whether you want this, the EMA9 on the 1 minute or the 5-minute, right? So if we open up our list of solvers here, let me pin that, right? So you could take this solver here. So right now it's running on the 1-minute chart, and you can make a copy of it. And let's see, where is it? There it is. So it's that guy right there, and of course you could make a copy of it or a duplicate and then move it onto the 5-minute time frame, right? And then you could substitute that in here, to make it, a bar touching the 5-minute 9 EMA instead of the 1 minute. Let's see here. What else do we have? Okay, yeah, so remember, here's our critical 5-minute trend filter. Yeah, let's call this, let's see here. I'll rename this. There we go. So I try not to put long names in there. Man, I try not to put long names in there because that just makes the solvers longer. So, sometimes that's a bad thing. Not always, but sometimes. Let's see. Doesn't look like we need this bar direction. So let's get rid of that. There we go. And yeah, there we go. So, all right. So this is another solver here that's subjective, right? So maybe you want to look at this, SMA trend filter on the 1 minute, right? So you could take this solver down here, make a duplicate, move it on and move it up, right? So remember, you can use these up and down arrows to move a solver, from the default time frame to the 5-minute time frame, right? So, right, so you could replace that there, right? You could substitute a different solver there as well. So as you, so as you make these substitutions, you literally have to copy the entire logic. And let's see, make a copy of it and then paste that down here. Right? And then make the adjustments that you want. And then you're ultimately, you're going to have a different iteration, a different derivative of that signal. Right? So you're going to have a signal coming out of this AND node that'll be different. Right? And then ultimately, you would have to connect everything up to an OR node. So, and it didn't like that. Let's see if we can, yeah, that should be easy to repair. No integrity issues to fix. Awesome. Let's see. Looks like I gave it too much to chew on all at one time. Okay, let's see if we can get out of this. Yeah, it looks like BloodHound's thinking about it. Yeah, all right. I want, no, that should not have created any kind of looping issue. Well, let's just start NinjaTrader back up and see what we end up with. All right, well, I do know that I don't want this on my chart because it caused problems last time. So let's get rid of that secondary data series. All right, looks like we got, yeah. So everything was saved until I started copying things around too much. Sorry about that. I had to clear my throat again. All right, so back to where we were. All right, so making a copy of the system here. And then pasting that copy down here. No. Right. So, you know, when you do this, you know, this little kind of trick here, you know, where you can look at a condition such as a trend filter, right? You can only look at one extra condition at a time, right? So, so you notice I deleted this OR node here because you can only look at one of them at a time. Well, I could have left that OR node actually. Let me undo there. So I could have left that there, but I can't look at both of them at the same time because I'm just, you're just going to get a hot mess at the output there, right? So, at the output, you wouldn't be able to tell which trend filter is which. It's all just, it's just going to step on top of each other. So you can only look at one of these kind of trend filters at a time there. Right? So for there, so if I wanted to switch this to a 1 minute trend filter there. Oh, actually, yeah, it didn't save my name there. All right, so we have a whole bunch of solvers now, right? Because we have a duplicate of everything. Let's see here. There we go. All right, so you notice I have two comparison solvers on the 5 minute chart now. So one of these, I renamed it to the SMA 105 trend, and I can move that up onto the 1 minute chart. Well, basically, I'm moving it up to the default time frame, right, which is the 1 minute chart. And then I can go in there and right, you'll notice now it's no longer on the 5 minute time frame, right? But the other one is still on the 5 minute time frame. But then I would also need to go in here and adjust this so that it is the SMA 105. Let's open that up and switch that over to the 105, and bingo. There we have it. Right. And let's see here. Yeah, so I guess, I guess this still needs to be the EMA9 touch. Right. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, so I think that's all that's necessary to switch everything over to run on the 1 minute time frame. Yeah. So this would be let's see, oh, yeah. So I did lose a couple of names here when it crashed. Let's rename this. So you can go in here and rename these AND nodes, as you kind of see fit. So that way, exactly what customizations you've made to the system here, and the various timeframes, that you might have used in there. So, oh, okay. Yeah. So one other thing, to be mindful of is obviously when you do a copy and paste, you're making duplicates of all the solvers, right? You're making duplicates of all the solvers here. And so one thing that you may want to do, of course, this depends on, the speed of your computer and the complexity of the indicators that you're using in your system and kind of the overall complexity, of your system here, so you would just have to kind of pay attention to, how slow BloodHound may become on your chart, but one thing to just kind of keep in mind that if things, do look like they're getting a little sluggish, then you might want to get rid of these copies here. So for example, right, this bar direction and this bar direction, right, they're both doing the same function here. Oh, actually, oh yeah, remember, I deleted these guys earlier because we weren't actually using them. So let's get rid of them right now. Let's delete that. And there we go. So here's that other bar direction. And it has a 1 after it, telling you that, right, this was the copied one. So let's get rid of that. There. And okay, actually, here's a better example, right? So this solver up here, right, it's looking at the swing break, right? The high-low, breaking, right? The higher the low price breaking the swing, right? And so this is the same solver. And so for now, be mindful that the numbers get incremented when you make a copy, right? But essentially, breaking the swing indicator is on the 1 minute chart, right? At least that's my understanding. So if you want to keep the swing break on the 1 minute chart for these different iterations, then, if you want to kind of consolidate things, we can get rid of this copy here, this extra solver. And let's see here, that would be, so that would be this guy down here, right, is doing the exact same function as, where is it? There you go, this guy right there, right? So both of these comparison solvers are doing the exact same function. So I remember I deleted the copy, and so that would be the second one down here on the list. And I can delete that one as well. And then what I can do is I can take the first one, drag it on here, and plug it in. And so now these two solvers are exactly the same solver, right? It's just we're seeing the node on here twice, but both of these are visual references, right? They're only visual references. Actually, all these nodes are only visual references, right? Right. This is just a visual GUI here, and they're visual references to the one node here on the list of solvers, right? So what I did is I consolidated down to just one solver doing the calculation, and instead of having two separate solvers doing the same calculation, right? So we consolidated things down here. And so that saves processing time, right? And consolidating that down there. So, but you have to remember that when you do consolidate things down to one key solver, that if I change one, right? So example, you know, if I just change the name here, right? If I change the name, it's going to, it changes the other solver here because we're only dealing with one solver now. So just be mindful of that, that if you make a change, you know, to a solver that's being used in two different places, right, that you're changing both solvers at the same time, right? So I just changed the name, you know, to give you an example. So, but obviously if I go in here and change the swing strength, it's going to change the swing strength, you know, on both of those solvers. Yeah. So just be mindful of that when you do that kind of consolidation. So, you know, and something else here, like obviously you could consolidate both of these resets here, right? So I have two solvers, both doing the exact same task. So I have two calculations of the same calculation, right? So you can see how that's kind of using up CPU, or that's creating duplicate CPU calculations, right? And so we can consolidate that so that BloodHound runs faster, right? Because it's requiring less CPU calculations. So I could get rid of that extra one. And let's see here, that would be, there you go. Yeah, that would be that one there, and I could connect it up. And then I could find, right, the copy that was made. And I can then go and delete that one. Yeah, great. So, yeah, and there are some other ones around here, like, yeah, again, here is, yeah, here is a copy of that reversal bar solver. So I don't need that extra one. I could just drag the same one over and use that. So this solver and this solver are the exact same solver. We just have two visual representations on the logic board. And then I could go and reverse or delete, sorry, delete that reversal bar. And yeah, here's another one that I can get rid of. Let's delete that one. There it is. Put that one in there. There. All right. Yeah. So again, the point here is, you know, when you're making derivatives, you know, or iterations of the same system, and you're just changing the key solvers here, And so a lot of the reset solvers are just kind of extra copies, and you can consolidate those down. So that way, things will run a little faster and more efficiently. Yeah. All right. So I think that about does it now for the main signals here. Actually, I can connect that in. There we go. All right, let me save this. So now let's do the last component, which is generating an exit signal here. But first, let's name this solver here. Let's see. What happened there? Oh. All right, my mouse. What's going on? Oh, yeah, that's right. This version of BloodHound, unfortunately, when you change the name here, it is triggering a recalculation. Yeah, so the next version, the next version that we're working on getting out here actually takes care of that, so that if you change, so that when you're changing the name, it's not actually triggering a recalculation here. What's this called? It's called a continuation trade. There we go. All right, that's a bit of a lengthy name, but there it is. All right, I just need to wait for the recalculation to happen here. Oh yeah, and let's showcase something else here that's new for BloodHound version 2 that doesn't get used a lot. So we have the add text here. Just gonna have to patiently wait, I think. All right, there we go. Now, there. All right. So I'm having to be a little patient with this because every time I edit this text box, BloodHound is also doing a recalculation. Yeah, so again, this is supposed to be fixed so that, you know, these visual adjustments here doesn't trigger a recalculation in the next version that we're working on, or the next update, I should say, that we're working on, not the next version, the next update. So yeah, all right, so there we go. So yeah, you know, so you can add yourself some personal notes here, you know, for when you're, you know, if you do create, you know, various iterations of a system there. Actually, yeah, you know, back in the previous question on this Ranko double top, double bottom, didn't really need to do that. I could do, you know, I was able to make my notes within the and node name, you know, so I could just take the and node name and just make notes on that. So, yeah. Okay, so now that I got this squared away, let's save this real quick. And so now we can make the exit signal for this system here. Let's see here. So let's make a new logic template. Oh, that's kind of humorous. All right. Yeah, it's always moving the cursor around after it does a recalculation. There we go. All right, I'll just leave it at as an exit name. So let's find one of those exit signal conditions here. And that actually, we didn't have anything. I didn't have anything from to, oh, actually, I don't have the entry signals showing right now. So all right, I don't have a perfect example, but you know, but this happens a lot here. So essentially, well, actually, exactly, when a bar is entirely below the EMA, that is when we want to see an exit signal, right? So here, you know, this kind of looks like it could be setting up for a short signal, you know, so this bar being entirely below the 9 EMA, that would be an exit signal for a long trade setup, right? So, and then of course, vice versa. Yeah. So that would be an exit signal, you know, if there was a short trade setup. Well, actually both of these bars, you know, so any bar completely above the 9 EMA would be an exit, you know, condition for a short trade setup. And any bar below the 9 EMA would be an exit, you know, signal for a long setup. Okay. So to do that, we need a comparison solver. Go. um, all right, so this is would be looking, we're looking for the bar to be below for a long, you know, if it was a long entry signal, if the bar is below, then we want an exit signal. Or if it's a short trade signal, then if the bar is above, right, the EMA9 there. Right, so, you know, how do you know if the bar is entirely below the EMA? Well, you just look at the high price, right? If the high price is underneath it, then you know the bar is below. And in the opposite situation, if the low price is above, right, your moving average, then you know the bar is entirely above, right, the moving average. So in our case, the EMA. So input A, that's going to be price. And then input B, that's going to be our moving average. So in this case, the EMA. Right, let's adjust that to the 9 period. There. Let's see here. So if it is a long signal, so for a long trade, exit signals need to be a short output to exit a long trade. Yeah, so we need a short output, kind of like how we see here. Right. So for a long trade, we're evaluating the high price. And so if it's a short trade, we would be looking at the low price. And let's make sure the rules here for this comparison solver are set up. All right, so the high price needs to be for a long output. Yeah, for a long output, the high price needs to be greater than the EMA. Yeah, so for a short signal, the low price needs to be less than, so that we're all good there. And so if we look at this, yeah, so on this bar, and obviously the next bar, yeah. So you notice how those have short only outputs, and that's what we're looking for. So if a bar has a long and a short, then that means that the high is actually above. And so that means that the bar, the entire bar is not below the EMA, or the entire bar is not above the EMA, right? So look at these two bars here, right? They have a long and a short. So we need to get rid of the bars with a long and a short at the same time. And so a function node, the long short modifier function node, is what we need for that task. And the mode that we want is Oh, yes, yeah, shoot, which mode is it? Let's see. It's been a while since we had to do this. Oh, yeah. Actually, I think now we can do this without a function node. Yeah, there we go. That's right. So with BloodHound version 1, we used to have to use 2 function nodes. Right? So we actually had to invert, we had to grab an inverter, and we had to swap the outputs. Because we inverted it, so the invert, right? The invert got rid of the long and short bars, right? So any bar that had a long and short together, it got rid of those bars because it completely inverted it, right? But because it inverted it, the bars that, or the output that was remaining was in the wrong direction, right? So let me get rid of that guy. Yeah. So let's just look at the invert only. Right. So the invert only left us with a long output. Right. So let's turn the invert off. So remember, we had a short only output, and that's what we wanted, because if the bar's below, we need a short exit signal, or we need a short output to exit a long trade setup. Right. So when the bar is completely below, that's our exit condition for a long trade setup. Right. So originally, right, we had a short only, and so we wanted to just get rid of the long and short bars together. So the invert does that, but it also inverts the short signals that we wanted to keep. So now we just need to swap that, right? We need to apply one more function to this, and then we get our short signals back. All right, so there we go. So when the bars are completely above, we have a long output only. And so, right, so in order to exit a possible short trade, when the bars are completely above, we want a long output to exit a short trade. So there we go. So invert and swap our comparison solver, and that is our exit signals. Yeah. So now we don't need any function nodes. They're just kind of the main, the main function capabilities that are used a lot are now built in. So, all right. So there we go. It was just that simple. So, all right. And of course, again, this exit signal is built on, it's built on the 1 minute bar data and the 1 minute EMA. So if you wanted to, to switch this over so that it's running on the 5 minute chart, then you could just, there you go. So it's that solver there. So you can make a copy of it or a duplicate of it and then move it onto the 5 minute time frame. Right. And again, just to be clear here, so if you're yeah, if you want to verify, so if you want your exit signal to be looking at the 1 minute bar, but comparing it to the 5 minute EMA, then you need a custom EMA that can run on the 5 minute time frame by itself, right? So BloodHound is not capable, or it's not going to put the EMA on a different time frame. So at least not yet. So we had to make further granular changes to the back end to make that possible, right? So, and that won't come out for until much later, at best that may be possible next year. So, but don't count on it. Don't hold your breath. So, all right. So, yeah, there's our exit signals. So, yeah. Let me just save that. Make sure it's all saved and tucked away. And get rid of those. And let me take a look at the Q&A window here. Let's see what we have. All right. Yeah. So I was saving Julius's earlier comment of, yeah, there's two systems here. Yeah. One for the 1 minute chart, and one for the 5 minute chart. So, all right. Yeah. So I did cover that so I covered that previously on how you could make copies, of the system, and then kind of go in there and tweak the main components. So again, the main components is, as I understand it, is right here. So these solvers here, where we're looking at, we're looking at the bar touching the 9 EMA. And oh, that's right. I did name this. So let me go back and name that since I lost it. There we go. And oh, yeah, so it looks like we're not using the same solver. So let's get rid of that. There we go. There's that solver I just renamed, so I could pull it down, connect it up. There we go. All right, so again, the key components here, as I understand it, is which moving average are you looking for, price to touch or the bar to touch, and also what's your trend filter here, which SMA are you looking at as your trend filter. So as far as looking for the swing indicator, price breaking the swing indicator, as far as I know, that's always on the 1 minute chart. But, if you want to change what time frame the swing indicator is on, then this also, I guess would be a critical part, but as far as kind of like all the reset conditions, these guys, oops, not that one. There we go. Right. So, this right here, is a reset condition, and these are running on the 1 minute time frame, just as, these resets solvers here are also running on the 1 minute time frame, right? So those are probably always going to remain on the 1 minute time frame. However, I guess if you are building this system to run completely on the 5 minute time frame, then yeah, you would need the copies of these solvers, you know, and remember, these solvers are just looking at price action. You know, yeah, comparing, yeah, what were these guys doing? Yeah, these guys were looking for a smooth pullback. Yeah, so if you're looking for that smooth pullback on the 5 minute chart, then yeah, you would have to make copies of this and switch them over to the 5 minute chart. Yeah, I'm just checking to see if I left any extra solvers on here after I deleted them. No, I don't think so. Yeah, everything looks good now. Yeah. All right. So let me save that. There we go. Make sure to save that. Right. And I guess I might as well show you here. You know, if you're worried about accidentally deleting a solver that's being used, you actually can't do that. So BloodHound, you know, does have a safety check built into it. Right. So this bar above or below the 9 EMA, right? Remember, that's our kind of our exit signal solver that we just built, right? Bar above or below the 9 EMA, right? So if I try and delete this, I'm going to get this error message here, right? Cannot delete, it's in use, right? So it's telling me that it's in use. So, but I will say that just as good practice with any software, you know, before you start deleting a bunch of stuff that you think the software will protect you against deleting something in use, you know, it's always a good practice that before you go and start deleting a bunch of stuff, you know, just try and get rid of extra things, or, you know, or before you start going modifying things, you know, that you think may accidentally cause a problem, it's always good practice with any software to go and save your work first before you go and start tweaking a bunch of stuff. So, okay, I think with that, I think we have it. Yeah. Oh, let's see here. All right, so let me continue to go through the Q&A window here. So we've got that. Let's see here. All right, so Julius is asking, yeah, would you show me the SMA21 solver again? Yeah, so that was this guy up here, right? So that was the SMA21 on the 5 minute chart, right? Of course, we can see that this is on the 5 minute chart, right? Because it puts that little 5 minute label above the solver. And then this other one here on the other system, right? I renamed it to the SMA 105 and I changed it to the SMA 105. So there, let's select that guy again, right? So again, I'm just comparing the closing price. And again, this is the closing price of the 5 minute bar. So again, solvers do not mix and match timeframes. So just to be clear again. So this is the close of the 5 minute bar, and this is the SMA21 running on the 5 minute bar or the 5 minute chart. Right. So there you go. There's that guy up there. So, all right. Let's see. Yeah, that question was half an hour ago. There we go. And Julius is saying, is it the product mode? Let's see. Yeah, I think that question came out with when I was building the exit signal. So, all right. So anyways, we got that question figured out previously. So, all right. Yeah. Julius is just saying, yeah, the pullback stumped him. Yep. And yeah, you said that earlier in your email. I do recall that. So, and yeah, definitely kind of, yeah, allowing for price to continue on. Yeah, so we can see here on the chart here, right? We got the break, we got the swing break, and then price continued on, allowing that, yeah, that was, I guess, a little tricky, a little non-standard. And then identifying the pullback and then allowing the pullback to continue on, right? And that's what these two signal extenders do, right? So that is the purpose of these signal extenders is you identify the primary condition, right? So the primary condition, as I labeled it, is the swing break. And so you take the swing break and you extend it forward. And that's what allows for price to keep continuing. Yep. And then with the signal extender, right, then you need to eventually identify when the first pullback bar happens, right? So then when you identify that first pullback, and that gets identified with the, yeah, I guess you could say with the help or, with the necessity of the signal extender. So then once you identify that, then you have to put that first pullback bar into another signal extender. So that way you can allow for a certain number of pullback bars, right? So that's what the second signal extender does. And then eventually you get to the actual signal when the bar touches it, right? Now, sometimes, actually, yeah, sometimes you do need to reset the signal extender when the actual trade signal happens, but this time we didn't, right? So we're only we're only resetting this signal extender when there is a violation of the smooth pullback rules there. So I'm starting to lose my voice here. So I'm trying to get through this as quickly as I can. So, all right. Yeah. So I think that does it. Yeah. So that kind of breaks the, breaks down how we were able to allow or provide for this continuation and the smooth pullback, right? So so this guy here, this solver here, is what essentially let's see, compares let's see that's right, yeah. So this guy here is what generates the reset signals when there is a pullback violation. Yeah, so I did label this AND node as the pullback violation, right? And so it may look like, what we're looking at is backwards for the pullback, right? Because the pullback, you want you want lower highs, And so here, the high prices, right? We are looking for lower. So the violation of the pullback is actually a higher high. And so when we get a higher high, we're generating a short signal, right? So remember that what I chose to do when building this system, this was a choice, is that the reset needed to be in the opposite direction, right? So when those highs went higher, I'm generating a short signal, right? So that's why the high price is in the short signal section here, is in the short signal portion. So if the high prices go higher, it's going to generate a short signal. And then that is what resets or turns off the signal extender. Yeah, so you kind of have to reverse your thinking because of the way I generated the way I'm using the reset signals. It's in a reverse fashion. So that to me makes more sense. So I could have actually generated a long signal. So when the high prices went higher, I could have generated a long signal to reset the signal extender. It just depends on how your mind thinks about it and processes those violations to reset or turn off the function nodes. So you could build it both ways. Both ways are fine. So as I said earlier, just try and keep a consistency when you're building a reset signals. Just try and keep a consistent theme throughout your building process. Otherwise, you will get yourself turned around. And I have done that myself, got myself turned around, Okay, I think that does it. Yep, that was it for the follow-up questions. So, yeah. So we will pick this question up tomorrow in the Blackbird workshop, right? So we will take these signals and then generate the entry order. The entry order. And I don't think, I don't recall. Let's see, I am looking here. Well, I will look through the email again, but I don't think there was really kind of any consistent. I don't think I was giving any information for where the profit target should be. But I think you did mention, or I think Anderson's description does mention somewhere where to place the stop loss. So anyways, we'll take care of that tomorrow in tomorrow's workshop.